The Baltimore Ravens move on to the AFC Championship game. They took down, the Houston Texans 34-10 on Saturday. San Francisco come from behind victory over the Green Bay Packers 24-21. And Sunday saw the Detroit Football Lions head into the NFC Championship game to take on the San Francisco 49ers after they beat the Tampa Bay Bucks 31-23 at Ford Field. And in the nightcap, it was Chiefs, Bills. Once again, for the sixth consecutive time, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, are going to the NFC title game. They take down Buffalo 27-24. Blazers go down to the Lakers 134-110. Same old story. Aaron Fentress, though, friend of the program, joins us in hour number 3. A full wrap-up of the divisional round. Plus, hey, we're back in the building after the White Death has melted off. RCM on a Monday starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Monday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you were rolling this particular Monday. You did it, folks. You made it. You made it through the ice storm. And obviously, I think there are some people still dealing with the aftermath, the remnants. Still a lot of down trees, a lot of down power lines. So for those out there still dealing with it, that stinks. Thinking about you. But for the most part, the city is breathing again. And oh boy, it was something. Brendan has emerged from his cocoon. He's seen the light of the day. He went out, stepped on the sidewalk. Did not slip and fall, decided I can maybe make it in. So fine. For the first time in a good week and a half, really, Brendan's back in the building. How we doing? How was the weekend?
Yeah, I was reminded, there's a drive as opposed to just opening up the laptop.
That's a good point.
Which I did enjoy. That was enjoyable this last week. Traffic, which I'm like, cars on the road and red lights and things like that. You're like, today was it was almost kind of like a good welcome back, Justin. I'd go through like 6 or 7 lights on my way to work. Every single one of them red this morning.
Yeah,
and I hit them and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm in a good mood for a Monday, right? I'm rolling in, but I'm like, man, like all these red lights kind of kill my vibe this morning.
Plus, here's the thing, and I don't know where you live, but I know kind of the gist of the way you drive in. And you live in that part of the Portland metro area where you do not test yellow lights because you get
yes,
those
sir.
cameras will take
yes, sir.
I have to switch my mindset because when you drive, I believe, now I could be wrong, but I believe city of Portland, it's like you can't, there is no cameras. There's no light cameras in city of Portland. I think it's I don't know if it's a law or a ordinance or something. They don't have them. They don't have the lights. They don't have those camera snitches out there. And man, when I come into Tigard, where the studio, I got to remind myself, hey, cool it with the yellow lights, big dog. Because all of a sudden you'll see that big. So you got to not only catch a couple of red lights coming in, but you got to
got to be on your toes in the morning.
You have to be on your toes. You do not test a yellow light in the southwest suburbs.
Yeah, so all that to say, hit a couple of yellow lights, and as Justin correctly pointed out, several of them were camera lights, and they were a little extra long. Maybe some folks who also didn't go to work all week, Justin. So there's a little more traffic this morning, but we're here. We got 10 toes in the building.
That's
Excited
right.
to get back. Saw our good friends over at the Brew in the hallway this morning, so I kind of missed the. I'm like, we don't see a ton of people in our mornings, Justin, but I kind of missed the 3 people we did see.
It was so weird because I was able to make it into work a handful of days over the week. And once the ice storm hit, I was like, all right, this is silly. We're not going to try to go sledding down. But I was able, when it was still snowy, I could hop in the truck and I could get here. And it was this last week. It was law of the jungle. Now, here's the thing that people don't understand. And, look, we got a lot of football to talk about, and I'm very excited to talk about a ton of football. How are we feeling about Brock Purdy now after the weekend? How are we feeling about Josh Allen? We got a couple of big matchups. I know that I am college football obsessed, and I still believe that the college football playoff is still the best way to do college football. I will say this. It's probably better watching Buffalo and Kansas City play each other as opposed to us arguing for 3 weeks over who should be in the 14 playoff. I thought about that last night because it's like it's the Ravens, it's the Lions. It's like if you were to make a college football playoff of the remaining teams, 49ers, Baltimore, clearly they're in, Lions, and then Chiefs. No, it should be the Bills. Look at their strength of schedule. I was like, yeah, they played. They played, and one team moved on. So I will concede that was better last night than maybe a bunch of us just arguing about who should be the final team in. But regardless, what's some thoughts on the I'm been big this last couple weeks on legacy because we have got some legacy defining stuff going on right now, or legacy changing stuff in the NFL. It's fantastic. What's Lamar Jackson's legacy? Like, we quote The Office probably far too much on this show, but it is one of the most appropriate quotes. Is like, I wish I had known I was in the good old days when I was in the. We are in the good old days, right? In Brendan, if we are, good Lord will and creek don't rise, if we are still doing this 5, 6, 7 years from now, who knows in what particular capacity we'll be doing this, but if we're still doing this down the, we are going to be talking about the careers and the legacies of Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Like, we will be talking about that, and we will probably be talking about Josh Allen as well. And in what context shall we be talking about Josh Allen? Maybe even Brock Purdy. What a turn of events for Jared Goff's career. A guy who was kicked to the curb, as the kids say. Do the kids still say kicked to the curb? Probably not. But was kicked to the curb. He took the Rams to the Super Bowl as a quarterback. And John McVay was like, I'm not, just not feeling it. We were a quarterback away, and you also played Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but we were a quarterback away. And the Rams were like, thanks, but no thanks. And Jared Goff goes off into what was supposed to be football Siberia, right? Football Siberia. If you don't know where Siberia is, it's that very, very cold part of Russia. And when people would get in bad with the Russian oligarchs or with the Communist Party, guess where they got sent? To Siberia, and we shall never hear from you again. That's where Jared Goff got sent off to. He got sent to You're going to Detroit with some weirdo Metallica quoting head coach. Good luck. Good luck, Goff, because you may get a paycheck and you may carve out another 5, 6, 7 years as a starter. Good luck with your football career. They're in the NFC title game. Taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Are we done with the Brock Purdy stuff now? Has Brock Purdy done enough? I mean, for crying out loud, he's once again in the NFC title game. Come from behind Vic, and again, oh, look at the weapon. Yeah, last I checked, 49ers. Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. Last I checked, Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. Not like he blew everybody out. So, we have got massive amounts of potentially legacy-defining storylines going on in the NFL right now, heading into this week. Also, sober reminder, Brendan, we got 3 football games left in our life for the foreseeable future. And you know what? That's not going to be old Debbie Downer about it. Got to be appreciative of what we've got. But we got 3 football games left in our lives until August. So let's enjoy them. Let's embrace it. We need the break. Got to have the break, right? Can't have Christmas every month. There's a reason why the Christmas season comes and then it goes. But It was a fascinating weekend of NFL football that we are going to be diving into coming up next segment. But as I mentioned, we're back here in the studio, and Brendan is getting a smidge of a taste of it because you're still fairly new to the radio world. You were a sports writer in college. You still write for your own website, but for the most part, in the radio world, you're still fairly new. You're learning, and you also came into radio in maybe one of the weirdest times of all time, which is COVID and working from home and all that stuff. But there are in the radio industry, and I don't know if it's like this everywhere else, but in the radio industry, there are sticky fingers, shall we say. There are certain things that if you just leave out and you don't label properly, somebody's just going to take them. And there's a lot of, and boy, this last week, when the power went out and it was, we were running on backup emergency power, still don't know where that came from. I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah, I'm going in. Building doesn't have power. She's like, well, how are you going to broadcast on the radio if the building doesn't have power? I'm like, well, we got the backup generator. Where does that get the power from? And I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I don't know if we've got like a hamster wheel down there but I have no earthly idea. But it was funny. By midweek last week, it was like The Last of Us or World War Z. You know, you ever watch those? You into the zombie movies? Never been my cup of tea, but every once in a while you watch those zombie movies or the apocalyptic movies where it's like the end of the world, and it's like all of a sudden anything that is not nailed down is up for grabs. And that was this, because there were only like 3 outlets that worked. So in this particular room, I know Chad commandeered a space heater from the traffic department. I moved in the coffee maker because I tried Chad's Fancy Pants coffee maker once, almost broke it. Don't think I did. Almost broke it. Had to go and get the regular coffee maker, brought it into the it was the law of the jungle around here. And then when we worked from home, interestingly enough, all the stuff got taken back, which was interesting. But we're back. Happy to be in the studio. Brendan, happy to have you back in the studio, out driving on the roads. Venturing out, and we got a lot of stuff to dive into. And do we have to talk about the Blazers today? Brendan's got a Blazer theory that I like, that we may dive into coming up. That might come up and make or miss. But is there something more than just trying to win games in certain players' minutes allocated? Is there something else there? Like, is there, hey, look at this shiny object that may potentially be up for grabs going on with this particular Blazer team? We'll dive into that as well. Aaron Fentress, friend of the program, he's going to be joining us in hour number 3. But what a weekend of not college football, I wish. What a weekend of NFL football. What a weekend of playoff football. And as I said, are we in the good old days right now? And is Josh Allen in a spot where many great NBA basketball players found themselves in the 90s? We'll talk about that next here on 620 Rip City Radio. right, fantastic weekend with the divisional round. We got 4 teams now headed to the NFC and the AFC championship games. So we got Ravens, Chiefs, we got Lions, Niners, and lots of storylines, a lot of stuff to dive into. And as I mentioned last segment, this is some legacy stuff we're talking about right now, for better or for worse. Because if Lamar Jackson gets the victory over Patrick Mahomes and makes it to the Super Bowl and on his way to likely a second MVP, right? That's generational stuff. Like, think about what's on the line, and obviously we're going to have an entire week to talk about it, but what a performance by Lamar Jackson. Coming off of an MVP season, they rest the final week. Appreciate that, Ravens. Got the Steelers into the postseason. But they rest the final game of the regular season. They get the first-round bye. Can we be done with hey, should we rest guys conversation now? You know, it's funny. There's never a follow-up on the should we rest guys. It's always like, hey, week 18, I don't know. Do you worry about staying sharp? It's like, what, 34-10? Yeah, the entire Ravens defense had basically no problem shutting down the Houston Texans. Lamar Jackson threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for 2 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in the playoff game for Lamar Jackson. And obviously that was one of the knocks. Look, whether that it is right or wrong, whether it is lazy, which it kind of is, it is what it is, which is a phrase that is misused over and over again, but sometimes it is appropriate. You know, like sometimes people very much misuse the term literally. Sometimes it is literally appropriate. Sometimes it is what it is appropriate, and it is in this situation, which is we define your quarterback legacy. Not your market value, but your quarterback legacy is defined in the postseason. It just is. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it fair? Is it unfair? Potentially. But it's the reality of the situation. You got to accept reality on reality's terms. Your market value is determined by multitudes of factors. Your legacy is determined by what you do in the postseason. And Lamar Jackson's knock was 1-3 in the postseason. Yeah, I mean, can you build around the guy? Can he win in the post? Well, he's going to the AFC title game. On his way to likely winning another MVP. So it's a big win for the Ravens. And I know that, and I said it last week, right? Momentum from one week to the next isn't exactly a thing in the NFL. Because, I mean, the Texans looked pretty good last week, and they laid an egg. And you got a rookie quarterback, you got a first-year coach, you're riding high off of emotion, you ran into a buzzsaw, but as we sit here right now, with the 4 teams that are heading into the AFC and the NFC title games, Ravens look like odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. Of the 4 teams left, right? We've done our tiers, right? If you were to rank them, I think you got to go Ravens 1, Chiefs 2, just because they're still the Chiefs. More on that in a moment. Then Niners, then Lions. But the Ravens, clear favorite over the weekend. So, again, try to put yourself 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. What's going to be the legacy of Lamar Jackson? It might be determined coming up on Sunday. If he dethrones the Kansas City Chiefs, gets himself into the Super Bowl, 2 MVPs, a Super Bowl appearance, gets the knock of can't win in the postseason off his back, now all of a sudden he's in a different conversation. We're having a different conversation about him. Same thing with Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy can get through Sunday's game without blowing up his elbow, sorry, Niners fans, to bring it up, and he can, in year 2, as Mr. Irrelevant, who just continues to win game after game after game, can get to the, then all of a sudden it's like, all right, this ain't a fluke anymore. I've been trying to tell everybody that from the get-go, You don't just win NFL games by accident. That's the thing with the Brock Purdy criticism. It is such a manufactured controversy. You can win college football games by accident. You can't win in the NFL by accident. Not the way that Brock Purdy was. Oh, look at all his weapons. Guess everybody's got weapons. Yeah, do the 49ers have the most? Yeah, they do. But
I'll say this.
Everybody's got weapons. You can't just win, was he with 17 NFL games now? As you don't just win, and 2 of them in the postseason. You don't just win NFL games on a whim.
Oh, singular games, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. One off.
Like I think like the Miami Miracle, right? Like that. There are those, but like multiple games, not a chance.
15 or whatever it is now.
You know this, Justin. You can have a fluky day, where the
I got
worst,
a couple of them, yeah.
Well, I just mean like the Carolina Panthers got 2 wins this year.
It's good. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like that's a but like, would you have 2 bad games in a row as an NFL team? Usually not.
And it's the thing with Brock Purdy. I think it perfectly encapsulates the social media world we live in. This is not a criticism, it's an observation. It perfectly encapsulates the social media world we live in. I talk about all the time. If you are in the middle of a New Year's resolution right now, and you're like, I want to lose some weight, I'll tell you the best way. You want to know the best way to lose weight? You know the best, I guarantee you, you could go buy 1,000 books. I guarantee you, there's one tried and true method. Write down everything you eat. Write it down. You want to save money. You want to budget? Write down everything you spend. Don't everything you spend. Write it down. You want to get stuff done and be more organized? Write it all down. Why? Because writing it down, I believe, and I'm no psychologist, but I believe something with writing it down makes it permanent. I live in a world where I just spew thoughts out into the universe. I don't write them down. And Brendan, you probably know this. There's more weight to an opinion that is written down, whether it is in digital form, in an article, or actually on a type, whatever. You know what I mean? When you write an opinion as an article versus giving an opinion on this show, it carries more weight when you write it down. Don't tell me everything you ate. Write it all down. It carries more. And this is why this is my theory on the Brock Purdy controversy. Not even the controversy, but the Brock Purdy criticism. Because last year, we go on, not we, but people, you get on the internet, you get on the social media apps, and you write down, like, this Purdy thing's a fluke. Look at all his weapons. And once you write it down, it's so much harder to reverse your opinion when it's written down. But as the kids say, they've got the receipts. I kept receipts. Freezing cold takes on Twitter has made a whole, I don't know how much money they make, but has made an entire industry of like, hey, freezing cold take. But it's made it when you write down opinions and write down takes and throw them out on social media, it makes it really hard to go, man, I was wrong. Because you want to, like, at the time, look at the context. Brock Purdy's now won 2 playoff games. Come from behind. What was he? 252 through the air. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was 23 of 39 for 252 yards. Now, also got 2 running touchdowns from Christian McCaffrey, who went for 98 yards. It's like, are we done now? Like, are we, like, even if the dude doesn't make the Super Bowl, like, are we, Brock Purdy, if you were to put him in, like, think about the C.J. Stroud praise that we have given him, as we should have. How come Brock Purdy is like, well, it's because we're obsessed with writing down our first opinions, and on top of that, we have a draft obsession. If C.J. Stroud next year, now again, weapons are different, and he got put into a different situation. I get it.
C.J. Stroud also is just, those guys are let me put it this way. Those guys are very different because of their abilities. One was taken in the 7th round. One was taken in the 1st round. I don't just not saying Brock Purdy's a bad quarterback, but like the ceiling is undoubtedly going to be higher for Stroud always.
But my opinion is nobody has said the C.J. Stroud thing is a fluke. Nobody. And if C.J. Stroud, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year, by the way. And if C.J. Stroud next year does what Brock Purdy did this year, he might be in the running for MVP. Yeah, I get it. Brock Purdy's got Christian McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle and Ayuk. And I understand it's not an apt comparison. I'm just saying, think about it from a perspective of if C.J. Stroud has been doing what Brock Purdy has been doing his rookie and sophomore years, he'd be MVP. He would be in the, maybe not the MVP, but he would definitely be in the discussion. But instead, everybody is constantly telling Brock Purdy, prove it, dude. Prove it. It's like, why? Because massive amounts of scouts and GMs overlooked him? Well,
That's kind of a reason, no?
I guess, but how much evidence do, like, your boy Tom Brady, like, he was 6th rounder, 7th rounder.
But it took, I would say, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but I would say it took until New England's undefeated season.
Yeah, that was
for him to get the respect and credit he deserved. I know forever it was, look at his weapons. It was, Belichick. It was, the defense.
His game manager and all that stuff, yeah.
So
I get it.
There could be something there, and with that, I'm saying yes. Justin Brock Purdy is the next Tom Brady. This is Brendan's TED Talk.
But no, it's such an interesting place we're at now with the 49ers quarterback, and it's like if you put all the numbers and the wins and the success, and you put that on C.J. Stroud, it'd be like, oh my, and we kind of have like Houston Texans knocked it out of the park. 49ers game manager. It's like. No. This guy's one of the best in the game right now. You can't just win these games on a fluke. So, 49ers, they're moving on. They're facing against the Lions. And talk about turning a franchise around. I mean, I've made my case over and over again about why I love Dan Campbell. And I'll be perfect. I was wrong about the dude. Brendan, we sat here and made fun of him.
I was totally wrong.
We made fun of him.
Hand up, totally wrong. I thought this guy has a really red nose, and I guess
this guy's a joke, right?
Says a lot of crazy things. But you know what? Sometimes you got to wear egg on your face. And how about it, man, Justin? Not everybody in Michigan, because some people in Michigan can kick rocks, as far as I'm concerned. But how about the Wolverines and the Lions, Justin? It is a time to be. Basically, as long as you're not a Michigan State fan, life is great.
But you think about where they were in 2021. Okay, the Detroit Lions in 2021, 3 wins.
Is that Patricia? Or is that first year of Campbell?
I think that's last year because I think
see.
Because
I have it up in front of me here. What year did you say? Sorry.
2021. They were 3-14. 3-14.
That was the first year of the Dan Campbell, so credit to him, Justin. How many other teams fire their coach after that first year? We've seen it.
And then in 2022, last year, they were a game away, right? Remember, they go 3-14, and then last year, start the season 1-6. Like, Dan Campbell's almost fired by November of last year, if you think about it. And there's probably an owner, who's the guy in Carolina?
Oh, David Tepper.
He would have definitely fired him.
Oh, yeah.
But think about where the Lions were. They were 3-14 in 2021, and they start off 2022 1-6. They're 1-6 going into a game against the Green Bay Packers, who had Aaron Rodgers on their team. And they finish out the season 8-2. Ruin the Packers' year. Win that last game. Moving on. Now they're in the NFC title game. What a turnaround. What an absolute turnaround.
And the other thing, too, that I saw that did not get enough credit, Justin, is they've nailed the last couple drafts, right? Aiden Hutchinson does not get nearly the credit he deserves, right? They've drafted, Gibbs. They've drafted, just great.
Penei Sewell.
Right, Penei Sewell. They've nailed the last couple of drafts. But I just don't think any of us could have expected, again, Justin and I have seen it. We saw a case with Detroit's defensive coordinator, right? Steve Wilkes, who was there. He got bounced in Arizona, I think, after a year. There are those owners now who are again, Frank Reich this year, right?
Yeah.
There are those owners, Justin, who are yep, year one, didn't like what I saw, you're donezo. It's but I signed a 5-year deal. Nah, we'll pay you, but you don't get
his first 24 games, he's 4-20. As a head coach, he's 4-20, and if it's not the Lions, who are just, their fans are just kind of used to, it's this is what we are. We hired a weirdo, right? It's no. Since that moment on, they went, 2-8? 2-8 to end last season, and now they're in the NFC title game. By the way, would be hosting NFC title game if not for referee not understanding who's eligible. By the way, let that be known that if the referee made the right player eligible in that game against Dallas, this game's at Ford Field. Do you know what I mean? So, again, I love Dan Campbell is in the NFL. And, again, resurgence. We're talking about legacy here. Jared Goff rewriting his legacy. Absolutely rewriting his legacy. Now let's get into the game last night. First off, you had Taylor Swift and shirtless Jason Kelce in the same suite last night in Buffalo, which was, I know that there are people that are sick of the Taylor Swift cutaways. Well, you can all kick rocks because it's not going anywhere. Brendan, what I wouldn't have given for just a steady, you know how they had the one game where they had the camera on Kobe the whole game? And they've done it in soccer a couple of times. And they did it when Tiger Woods was at his peak. They're I think ESPN Plus is just we're only showing, if you go to this stream, you can just watch Tiger Woods play the Masters, and we're only putting the camera on Tiger. There should have been just a CBS, Paramount Plus, whatever it is. Here's the the camera is going to be on the suite the entire game. I would have watched it for an hour yesterday. That was so much fun to watch. But inevitably, the question is going to come back to the Bills and Josh Allen. And I look at Josh Allen right now as all those NBA greats in the 90s. Whether it was Karl Malone, whether it was Patrick Ewing, whether it was Charles Barkley, right? You think about those three all-time greats. Karl Malone may be the greatest bad guy, not a good, questionable decisions off the court, more than questionable, criminal. On the court, greatest power forward of all time. Sorry, Tim Duncan, you're a center. Charles Barkley, top 3, 4 power forward of all time. Patrick Ewing, one of the greatest centers of all time. None of them have a ring for a lot of different reasons. But you want to know what the biggest reason is? They had to play when Michael Jordan was playing. And I don't know what Patrick Mahomes is ultimately going to become, but he's crushing a lot of dreams on his way to being one of the all-time greatest. Because if Patrick Mahomes is playing in the NFC, Josh Allen's maybe played in 2 Super Bowls at this point in his career. But it's no, he just got to keep playing against the Chiefs. One game he had a lead with 13 seconds. A lead with 13 seconds. The next, 44-yard field goal to tie. We're going to overtime. Let's figure it out in overtime. And the other guy missed the kick. So some bad luck. But bad luck was created because Patrick Mahomes is just so gall darn good at football. Talked about these are legacy-defining games. Every quarterback that was playing over the weekend, every single one that was playing over the weekend, there is legacy talk to be had. Even Baker Mayfield. Because I would imagine he threw 2 picks, but Baker Mayfield threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game against the Lions. And I'm assuming he's probably going to be the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Bucs again. So Baker, I know you are obsessed with the idea of Michael Penix going to Tampa Bay, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Baker's their guy. I think Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. I think both of those guys flipped the script, as they say. Does anybody say flip the script anymore? Probably not. But definitely changed the narrative of where their careers were going. Left on the scrap heap, both of them sitting up. All right, we got a lot of football to dive into. Do want to talk some round ball rock coming up. Kevin Durant said something interesting. Speaking of legacy, Kevin Durant said something, and cautionary tale to the young NBA players out there. I'll tell you what that is coming up in a bit. But before we do that, I want to tell you about my good friends at Hey, the weather's thawed, everybody. The White Death has left us, and the ice, thankfully, has moved on. So, how'd your roof hold up? How'd your windows hold up? How'd your heating hold up? Are you going to have a big energy bill coming your way? Hopefully, if you got to keep power. Thankfully, I did as well. But if any of those things make you go like, yeah, maybe it might be time to take a look at the roofing, the windows, the siding. Well, DeBella is who you want to call. They're the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers, but also they can save you up to 30% on your energy bills. And if your roof maybe a little bit old, maybe a little bit worse for wear, maybe that ice storm took its toll on your roof. Well, now you can get a free quote from DeBella, who has over 15,000 5-star reviews on Google. Over 15,000 5-star reviews. And now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella. Why? Because 0 down and no payments till 2025. So even if you were wondering, boy, I really would like a new roof, don't know if we can afford, no payments, 0 down till 2025 on approved credit. Visit them right now at DeBella, DABELLA.US for a free, no obligation appointment. They can make updating your home so easy. Give DeBella a call or go to DeBella.US for a free, no obligation appointment. The official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, time to wrap up hour number 1. We'll get back into more football coming up in hour number 2. We got Make or Miss coming up as well. Aaron Fentress is going to join us in hour number 3, but there was a lot going on in the sports world over the weekend, more than just football, even though it was a lot of our attention. There was some interesting comments from Phoenix Suns superstar Kevin Durant with regard to him in the greatest of all time discussions we discuss right now with John Tesh in the background. It's time for Round Ball Rock. Here we go. All right, so in an interview with the Arizona Republic, and I don't know how the conversation got to this, but in a conversation with the Arizona Republic, when Kevin Durant was asked why he believes he is not in the greatest of all time conversation. Now, let's throw out the statistics, because Kevin Durant is a Hall of Famer. Kevin Durant is a generational talent. And let me just say this. I've always liked Kevin Durant. Fun to watch. And there was a time in the NBA where he was the best player in the league. But Kevin Durant throughout, why am I not in the greatest of all time conversation? Because I went to the Warriors? Why shouldn't I be in that? That's the question you should ask. Why not? What haven't I done? Now, in terms of what he hasn't done, he's 100% correct. He's won the NBA Finals. He's been a Finals MVP. He's been a regular season MVP. He's won a gold medal, all of that. But he answered the question in his answer. Because I went to the Warriors. Yes, Kevin, that's why. That's why you're not the greatest of all time. Because there are X factors there. You want to be one of the greatest of all time, you can't just pick up your stuff and go play for the best team in the league and say, hey, I just won an MVP. Yeah. You went to a team that just set the record for wins, and then you just went to their team. Also, let's be honest. Talked about it with quarterbacks and legacy last segment. Greatest of all time discussion starts with rings. We start there. Doesn't end with it, but it starts with rings. Jordan's got 6. Kobe's got 5. LeBron and Shaq have 4. Well, LeBron's got 3.5. LeBron and Shaq have 4. You got 2, big dog. Steph Curry's got 4. You got 2, big dog. That's why you're not in the greatest of all time conversation. And again, we know we do Grumpy Old Man on Tuesday, but let me just be a little word of advice from old Uncle Justin. This is the classic. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. Sorry, there's consequences to the decisions that we make. And yeah, you got to join that gravy train. You got to join that gravy train of the Golden State Warriors. You got to ride that thing to 2 rings. You can't ever take them away. But the consequence is you create an AAU team out of the NBA, and your legacy, for what better or worse, took a hit. That's just the reality of the situation. Because when it comes to greatest of all time, there are X factors. Here's the other thing. Call me nuts, but of his years in the NBA, how many could you definitively say Kevin Durant was the best player in the world? Like, definitively, in his years playing in the NBA, maybe 4? The 2 years with Golden State, I think you can clearly say, make an argument, make a case that Kevin Durant was the best player in the world.
The year with Brooklyn with the big toe,
yeah,
he was elite that year.
And then his MVP year with Oklahoma City.
Yeah, like I'd say one
year.
year.
4.
Yeah, I'd maybe.
Whereas you could make a case that there were.
I'd go
8 years of Jordan. He was the best player in the world. You could LeBron. There's probably 9-10 years in there where LeBron's the best player in the world,
if not longer.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference there. You know what I mean? He's a tremendous player. But like, he's never had a sustained decade of like, that guy is the greatest.
And I hate to say it, Jelston, not to bring up our good man Sir Chuck. Mm-hmm. Kevin Durant hasn't proved he can drive the bus himself. So
And that exactly
just gonna
right.
be just an observation, but for me, that's how I judge winners.
And it's tough because he was driving the bus those 2 years with the Warriors, but that's still Steph's team.
It is Steph's team.
But if you watch the games, though, you remember those.
Oh, I do.
Kevin Durant was driving the
that
bus.
was Durantula time, man.
He
that was when
driving the bus.
Yeah.
But it was Steph's team.
Still Steph,
and that's
yep.
the consequence, right? You go to somebody else's team. And by the way, I went and I looked it up just because I was like, well, Justin, if LeBron's in the discussion, and he is, he's not my favorite, but he is. He went to the Heat. Well, yes, LeBron James went to the Heat. The Heat were coming off of back-to-back first-round exits when LeBron James went to the Heat. In case anybody forgets, they were 43-39, and then 47-35, third place in their division out in the first round. Back-to-back first-round losses. Then LeBron went and turned them into a wagon. All right, we have got hour number 2. We got Make or Miss. We've got a ton of football stuff to get back into. More on the way on Rip City Morning, 620 Rip City Radio.
news you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. NFL playoffs over the weekend. The Baltimore Ravens are heading to the AFC Championship game as they take down the Houston Texans 34-10. And the San Francisco 49ers, behind Brock Purdy, come from behind victory over the Green Bay Packers 24-21. The Detroit Lions, yes, those Detroit Lions are heading to the NFC title game after a win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23. And the Chiefs take down the Buffalo Bills in the nightcap that lived up to the hype 27-24. Portland Trailblazers fall to the Los Angeles Lakers 134-110 last night. Coming up, friend of the program in hour number 3, Aaron Fentress joins the big show, but we have got more football to talk about, and I have a math question. Hour 2 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, 20 minutes from now, we've got Make or Miss. Brendan's back in the studio after working from home all week. Happy we have the technology to be able to work from home, but feel like we're a little bit more on our toes. Like literally on our toes. So when I work from home, the setup, I can't stand up. And if you're watching on YouTube, welcome back. We got YouTube. Are we running YouTube today? By the way, we're back. All right, good. Back on YouTube. Hang out with us there. Throw a comment in there if you want to be nice. Don't throw rude comments on there. Go about your day. But yeah, the home setup was great for what it was. Glad we were actually able to be on the air. Some people weren't able to be on the air. We were there, happy to be there, and the only downfall was I couldn't stand up. And YouTube knows this. Brendan knows this. I stand up the whole, other than the commercials. I take like a 30-second timeout during the commercial breaks, like I'm between rounds. But I stand up throughout the entire show. So happy to be here, back on the feet, in the studio, and a lot of stuff from over the weekend, right? I mentioned it before in the first hour. Legacy define. We're in the good old days right now. Like, we are in the good old days of NFL football. Is Patrick Mahomes slowly but surely right now in front of our eyes becoming one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? If he goes to another Super Bowl, and if they win the Super Bowl, and he's got 3 rings, he's never not been in an AFC title game as a starting quarterback. That's an amazing stat. Since the day that the Chiefs said, that guy with a funny voice, he's going to be our starter. It's got to be weird in the huddle, gang. We're going to have to get over it. He's got a real funny voice. But from the moment like he took over, they have never not made the AFC title game. I mean, think about, like, we talk about in college football with the college. That's 6 years of college football playoff. Only difference is they actually won games to get in there because it's a playoff. So we're right in the middle of the Patrick Mahomes legacy. We're also right in the middle of the, what's going on with Josh Allen legacy? Will Josh Allen ever get it done? Will he get over the hump? We're going to have guess what? Another very cold winter and spring in Buffalo, and I'm sure there are plenty of, while it's cold outside, the bar stools are probably very warm with the Buffalo Bills Mafia just drinking their sorrows away, going like, we had it. We had it again. How did we lose it? We had it. There's also some questionable decisions going on in both games on Sunday, and the fake punt, I'm not going to ever understand. Don't quite get that one. And I think it might have been Tony Romo. By the way, can I tell you something, Brendan? I don't know how you feel about Tony Romo in the booth, but like, when I don't have a rooting interest one way or the other, Tony Romo is a treasure. He is a treasure. Oh, dude, geez, Jim, I don't know, Jim. It's a boy, it's just a man. I don't know, Jim. It's like, what did Tony Romo just say? He's so excited he can't even get the words out. Now, when it is your team playing, that is the most annoying thing possible. But when you don't have a rooting interest, I'm a Romo fan. And it's like, I think Jim Nance has just settled into like, yeah, this is just my guy. I think he was a little bit annoyed for a couple years, and now Jim Nance is like, yep, it's just what Tony does. He goes, Jim, I don't know. This is a fumble, Jim. Ooh, boy, this will be close. Whew. I love Tony Romo. Don't know what they were doing on the fake punt. Buffalo Bills. That one was a bit of a surprise. But I said I had a math question. So, Brendan, you love the analytics. You pay attention to the trends, mostly with basketball. You play a lot of 2K. They were trying to explain it to me like I was 5 years old. Actually, I think it was more Chris Collinsworth was trying to explain it to me like I was 11 years old, and then I wanted to be like, Chris, I'm not getting it. The whole Tampa Bay going for 2 thing. I know like this is a new thing in football, and I am teetering. I am teetering on the that's really dumb. It's like you can tell me all the math stuff, but I know that 7 + 7 = 14, and that's what you were down before you scored that touchdown. I don't understand why. But then there's the other part of it is you can gain an advantage if you get a 2-point conversion. Therefore, if you get a stop and a score, you kick the extra point, you get the win. If you don't get the 2-point conversion, well, you're going to go for 2 again. And most teams, I believe, are sitting right about, I think it was, they said the Tampa Bay Bucks are about 47% on going for 2. So as if it's right about 50%, the math tells you, hey, we don't get one, we'll likely get the other because we're running at a 50% clip. This is the problem I've always had, though, with the math crowd, is those are human beings on the field. Human beings that are dealing with emotions and pressures and everything else. And also, all season long, you score a touchdown, you kick an extra point. You get 7 points on the board. It's not routine, but it's as close to routine as anything you do in the NFL. Hey, we score a touchdown. We do a fun little dance. We give some headbutts. We give some high fives. Kicker comes out. It's not the chip shot that it used to be, but still, was it a 35-yarder now you got to make? Like it's a 35-yarder. Boom, he goes, we do it all season long. We do it all season long. And it's like, so if you're down 14, I think, to me, I think there is something about, like, being down 7 versus being down 8. Now, maybe I'm just too old school. Maybe I'm too stuck in my ways. Maybe I'm too, like, hey, yeah, this is what Billy Bean was talking about. Maybe I'm one of those old scouts going like, hey, hits the curveball pretty good, and he's going to need some development, but he's got an ugly girlfriend and all that stuff, right? Maybe I'm one of those guys. I don't understand it. Are you on the go for 2? So, again, here's the situation scenario. Down 14, fourth quarter. A touchdown. Now you are down by 8. Bucks decide to go for 2, as opposed to kick the extra point. Now, I don't believe they ever got the ball back. No, wait, they did, and then Baker threw the pick. But down 8, as opposed to being down 7, but you gave yourself a chance the first time to maybe potentially only be down 6. Where are you at on the go for 2?
That's the time to do it. If you're that is
in the playoffs.
Well, just like if you have to score, if you're going to go for 2 and you've made the decision to go for 2 once, it's still better to do it the first time than the second time, because then even if they got the ball back, Justin, they're still only down 8.
I
still have a chance. So it's like, I think that if it comes down to whether or not the coach chooses that. But again, the math and the numbers say You go for it, and you have better odds to win it than not. And, with that point, Justin, you said something very on brand to me this morning was like, when we were talking about that fake punt from Sean McDermott, you're like, I'm not so much against going for it.
Yeah.
I'm against not having it in my best player's hands. And that's where it's like, with the Bucks in that case, like they've decided they wanted to go for 2 at least once. You shoot your shot, and then they missed, and even if they had gotten a stop, Justin, which they were a lot closer getting a stop than the Bills were. Oh my goodness! At least the Buccaneers had a chance to get the ball back. It was like first down, 9-yard carry, yeah, they're done.
So here's what's funny though, because the Bucks did the whole thing of going for 2, right? Playing the math, playing the analytics, and then Baker threw a pick. So Baker throws a pick, but they still had timeouts. And did you see Tampa Bay left a timeout in their pocket? And that's where I don't understand. Because I think what they could have done was they could have called a timeout on 3rd down, made them kick a field goal. Now, if they kick a field goal, boom, that's an 11-point game, ball game. I get it. But even if it's a minuscule chance, what if you block the field goal, scoop and score? I don't understand why they left the timeout in their pocket. You go through all the analytics of going for 2 when you are down 8 to then leave a timeout in your pocket. That one was weird. And then, all right, can I throw, I don't think this is the truth. Brendan, you are my witness. I'm on record. I don't think this is the truth. But if I was on Buffalo, New York radio right now, do you think there is a section of Bills fans who maybe buy into the conspiracy theory that fake punt was thrown in there to try to get DeMar Hamlin a playoff moment? Whoa.
Yes.
I don't think that's the truth.
Yes, I think it was. I do.
You're buying the conspiracy theory.
Well, I told you first, and again, let me start by saying this.
Because of all the people, of all the times to go for a fake punt, that's a weird time.
Well,
it's a weird spot in the field. And I'm like, do you think, throughout the week, they're like, we're going to get this? This is 100%er. We got this dialed.
I got to preface this by saying I'm very thankful and glad he's, healthy,
100%.
playing football, all that. Justin, he's not anywhere close to good enough of a player on that team to have the ball in his hands with a game-changing play like that.
He's a special teams player. He's been a special teams guy his whole career. He was on the punt and punt return team. That's when he got the heart attack.
Right. Would you? But I guess for me, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm not looking at him saying, "Yep, this could be a game a game-winning or game-losing play." I'm not putting the ball in his hands. So that's what a 27-year-old says. That doesn't work with him every day. I don't mean to hate on DeMar Hamlin, but that was blasphemy, Justin.
It was a head scratcher.
That was almost, it was. We sat there.
We sat there
comparing and contrasted. We're like, Jonathan Smith had the worst moment in football this year.
Hey.
He had the worst fake field goal ever. This fake punt is up there, Justin.
Sappington is going to get one next year.
Dan Lanning's going to be like, hey, we're going to design a good one for you.
We're going to get you, Sap. We're going to get you in that end zone, big guy.
They're going to throw to him. Sappington will be out there doing the Oregon fake kick and going to be like, yeah, I'm going to throw a touchdown.
Not that it really changes anything, cool. But man, what were they doing? I don't want to go back and relive that time, but you think about how that game ended and that decision.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And who's where now with what, you know what I mean?
You're there and you're there.
This is like, I don't want to throw up the, what was the show? Claire Danes, CIA.
Oh, I said,
Brody.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Why can't we think of this show? Homeland. That's
Thank you.
The show?
Yep. I was like, I knew what you were
Google
talking
works
about.
fast. But remember the Homeland wall that she put up, and then remember at the end of season 1, spoiler alert, they start taking it down. You're like, oh no, she's got it. That was that conspiracy. So I'm just wondering. I don't think it's the truth. I don't. I think that inexplicably Buffalo thought they had something, a numbers advantage, whatever. But there's they're hammering some buffalo wings this afternoon somewhere in and around Western New York in the snow freezing cold, going like, they're just trying to get DeMar Hamlin the ball. Like they're trying to, were they just trying to get him to have a playoff moment? I don't think it's true. But the timing of that play was interesting. It was interesting to say the least. All right. Speaking of interesting, we got Make or Miss coming up in a bit. Aaron Fentress is going to be joining the show as well. Are we doing your Brogdon theory coming up in Make or Miss, maybe, potentially? We have some Blazer thoughts on maybe some minute allocations going on with this particular Blazer team coming up in Make or Miss, or maybe later on in the program. But before we do all of that, once again, here to tell you about the good folks at DeBella, right? It has been brutal. It has been brutal the last week. And guess what? The weather's not going away. The ice may have melted away, but you know what's still hitting us? Rain, wind, cold could be coming back. It's still January, soon to be February. And if you were a little nervous, Nelly, about your roof over that last ice storm, maybe it's time to give DeBella a call, because if your roof was leaking or aging, or maybe, sadly, unfortunately, maybe you took a little bit of damage from some falling trees, DeBella's the people you want to call. They can take care of roofing, windows, siding, bath renovations. If you were stuck inside and you're like, I'm sick of this bathroom, we got to fix this thing. Bath renovations, well, they can help you out. With over 15,000 five-star reviews on Google from their customers, they are one of the best, if not the best, here in the great state of Oregon. Plus, perfect time to connect with DeBella's, because I tell you about the great financing opportunity with no payments until 2025 with zero down. Now, of course, that's on approved credit, but zero down and no payments until 2025. Siding, windows, bath renovation, roofing. Save up to 30% on your energy bills. Keep all that warm air inside instead of having it leak out into the outside. DeBella, DABELLA.us for a free, no obligation appointment. Just give them a chat, and they can make updating your home so easy. DeBella, they are the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. this because, look, we got 2 football games coming up this weekend. Then we get a break. Then we get the Super Bowl. Then I believe we're in the trade deadline. Like, we're right there, gang. Like, February is in a week and a half. And usually for basketball fans, February is like, oh, that's all-star game. It's like, yeah. And for some teams, it's like, we are going to be trading some players away. And, you think about what the Blazers have done now. They're not tanking this year on purpose, but 2 years ago, February, C.J. McCollum traded away. Last year, Josh Hart. Who else was traded away last year? Josh Hart's the only one I can remember. They're starting to shut Dame down. They didn't shut Dame down until like March, but it was clear some of the moves they were making. It's like, can't keep Josh Hart. Got to trade him away. I think that might have been the only real big piece that was traded away at the deadline last year. Brendan's Googling furiously. Anywho, we're going to have a ton to talk about with regard to Fentress, get his thoughts on the NFL postseason. But
and then they traded our good friend, GP2, back.
That's the...
Yeah.
Well, I forgot he was even on the team for a minute. You know what I mean?
If
Gary
Payton doesn't play in Portland, did it happen? I mean, you know what I mean? It's
talk about something we just kind of wiped from our memory. That whole GP2 thing. Oh boy.
Yeah, that was bad. It's bad. So those are the 3 moves, Justin. They traded Josh Hart, traded GP2, and then waived Greg Brown III. Those.
Yeah.
Remember Greg Brown? Yeah, I remember Greg Brown, man.
Threw it between his legs and dunked it in a game, in an NBA game. He did that one time.
It's true.
And he got the, what the bleep are you doing look from Chauncey Billups. Like, anyways.
But all that to say, I expect they will be busy, Justin.
You think so, or is this going to be one of those where we get all excited because, the team stinks right now. Like, they're not going to the postseason. Scoot's not having the rookie season that we all kind of thought he was. That's maybe on us more than that's on him. But, this isn't exactly where we thought the Blazers were going to be this year. And do you think we're almost maybe creating some false hope with this upcoming trade deadline? Oh, they're going to be busy. Watch, they're just not. It's like, no, we kind of like what we got going on here. We just got to get healthy. Either way, talk to Aaron Fentress coming up in hour number 3. Right now, though, let's get to Make or Miss.
It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good! Oh, my goodness! Oh, and a big miss.
It's Make or Miss here on RCM.
All right, going to start with something I saw last night, Justin. Actually happened over the weekend. Everybody on social media was tweeting out their favorite covers. R.I.P. to Sports Illustrated. Did you hear about this weekend? We'll see if there's still a chance it could survive.
Yeah, it's not going to survive. It's done. It's done like dinner.
It's looking real bad. And Justin, they have no employees left.
They don't. And you know what? As somebody who has been fired, it stinks. As somebody who's been laid off, it stinks. And sports media is a weird, weird world. It is unlike any other world. It's the only world I have known, but it's unlike any other world. You sell insurance, you get laid off. Guess what? You go find another place to sell insurance. I know I always default to like insurance, but if you work in marketing and unfortunately corporate restructuring happens, you go find another marketing job. And that's just kind of, you get on Indeed or you get on like LinkedIn and you start, networking and doing all that stuff. Sports media, if your media entity is gone, it is tough. It is tough out there. But let's talk about the Sports Illustrated thing real quick. Because I'm going to say all I'm about to say with compassion in my heart for those that lost their jobs. Because, again, I know what it is like to lose a job. It is awful. It is terrible, and I have compassion and empathy for them. Now, can I tell you what I get really irritated by? The pearl clutching that was going on. There was a lot of people on the X app over the weekend, Brendan, that were like, corporate raiders ruin Sports Illustrated. All right, when's the last time you went and bought a magazine? Not you, but I'm talking about anybody on Twitter. I speak for myself, hand up. Brendan, it's been a decade since went out and purchased a magazine.
So-
right? Like, if you did not go out and contribute and purchase a magazine, like, it was inevitable that Sports Illustrated was going to go away. It's a dying. It's a dying industry. Magazines aren't a part of our lives anymore. We have iPads now.
Well, but that's the thing, though, Justin. Like, digital magazines can exist, and as somebody who
Sports is a little tough, though, isn't it?
Well, no, because my other way of employment, Justin, is entirely based on people wanting to pay money to like. Let me look at it this way: like, if to that point, like, you're totally right, and those people, Justin, that are complaining are the same people that complain at me and tweet at me and go, "Well, how could I read your stuff? It's behind a paywall." Gee, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe some stuff needs to be paid for. Good journalism isn't free, folks. I get it. Radio, free, right?
We are free.
Awesome product,
we do
man.
good journalism every day.
Awesome
All right,
product.
maybe not journalism,
But,
but we do good content every day. We put it out there for free.
Justin, we're going to talk to Aaron Fentress. 80% of the things at the Oregonian are behind a paywall now, right? I mean, it is just the world we live in where it's like, I'm not saying you need to subscribe to everything, but very much like how you how you choose to subscribe to streaming services, that's what you need to pay for. The Athletic, for beaversedge.com. It's actually the best. But
there you go.
But
Good
you know
plug.
what I mean.
All
Like,
right, all right, let's get back to Sports Illustrated real quick, because this is a problem with nostalgia, right? We don't ever, like, I'm sure I wasn't alive back then, but, like, when cars came around, right, people who sold buggies were like kind of SOL. You know what I mean? It's like adapt or die. And it doesn't sound like Sports Illustrated adapted all that well. And they hung on for far too long and didn't adapt to the marketplace. And so with that, you lose an institution. But I don't know. It's just, it's a magazine. And if they would have done maybe a better job of switching to a better online product, sure. But, like, Sports Illustrated, it's in the name, right? Why did Sports Illustrated, why did it exist? Sure, there was some great sports writing in it. I get it. Because of the pictures. Guess what? We have Instagram now. Pictures are free. Like, that's it's in the name. Sports Illustrated. The illustrated part is the great picture, and there are tremendous covers, and it's a part of our sports life that's not going to be the same anymore. But we have Instagram now. Pictures are free.
I think, so this was interesting. So, again, we here in Portland.
By the way, sorry to cut you off. It sucks losing your job. That's the worst, and that I truly feel bad for. But, like, it's an entity that was primarily about cool pictures and paying for cool pictures. We don't pay for pictures anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean, we still do kind of pay for pictures. I mean,
What kind of pictures you paying for, Brendan?
well, like, I have an AP Newsroom account where I get pictures from all games and everything else.
Sure.
So it's like, you
You
know.
get proper picture credit,
I
but,
mean-
like, pictures are kind of free, though.
Yeah, that's coming from somebody who's never had to deal with copyright before.
That's very true.
Yep, never had to deal with that because I look at that and I go, red alert all over the place.
Can I tell you?
Bad way to think, Chuck.
Brendan, I had to sit through, not at this station, but I was at another station when social media was obviously becoming more and more normal.
Sure.
I had to sit through a whole copyright thing. It scared the daylights out of me. I'm like, I'm never posting a picture ever. You know what I mean? It's like, unless I took it with my camera. Like, they're like, you will get sued.
Yeah.
And you will. Like, I sat through a whole thing. I was like, oh, boy.
Well, here's the part, Justin, as someone who is a journalist, that I take pause with. And this actually hits home close to me because they talked about how this company that have the rights to publish Sports Illustrated, again, the corporate jargon here and how one person does this to this agreements is probably why this ultimately ended up happening. But Justin, Sports Illustrated, 3-4 years ago when this came out in 2019, they were trying to copy the Rivals and 247 and wanted to launch a bunch of individual sports school sites.
Yeah.
And they actually approached me at the time to leave Rivals and run this Sports Illustrated site. And it was something that at the time they were offering lots of great jump in, great this. And it's like, at the time I was like, seems a little fishy kind of a thing. Like, this just seems odd. And then for years later, like, again, butterfly effect and all that. But last thing on this, Justin, we are really familiar here in Portland now with, and particularly Seattle too. Shout out our friends to the north. Oh, by the way, Justin, the North finished Game of Thrones over the weekend.
All right.
So have to get to that at some point.
More on that later in the week. We got some football to talk about as well.
But Seattle and Portland now know, Justin, there are occasionally, it's really frustrating and unfortunate when decisions are made by non-sports people.
Yeah.
Right?
Non-football people, yeah.
A quote from this, Justin. So, the company that I'm trying to look exactly what that was, called Authentic, and they brought in a new CEO from 5 Hour Energy.
Yeah, buddy.
So he knows how to make people jacked, but maybe doesn't know much about sports.
I used to be hooked on that 5 Hour Energy.
It's not bad. The flavor could be better.
I'm out.
Yeah,
I've
flavor
quit
could be
cold
better.
turkey.
But
I used
Justin,
to be hooked on that stuff. It was bad.
How would you feel if
I gotta be hammered. The extra strength. I was like, who did the regular one? Give me the extra strength.
But how would you feel if, let's just say, a new CEO came into iHeart and said, Town Hall, Justin, we're all going to sit down. Maybe it's over Zoom, most likely, for a company that big. Justin, what would you say if this was his quote at the Town Hall, and this is kind of what they said was the beginning of the end? No one is important. The amount of useless stuff you guys do is staggering.
Yes.
Not good.
It's not good, but also, like, I've worked in the media industry enough to know, not wrong. There's a lot of useless stuff. There's a lot of useless stuff, and it stinks. Again,
I just know
we want everybody to have jobs, and I want everybody to have fulfillment and all that stuff. But it was a perfect storm, right? I'm not going to sit here and blame it all on technology, but it's a magazine. We don't have magazines in our life anymore. On top of that, some magazines probably adapted really well. Some clearly did not. And, if I don't believe good products just go away. Along the way, it became a bad product.
And you're right. And the world changing obviously was a big part of it. But again, Justin, we're finding out those companies that are making money in today's sports media world. And again, we got the big 4-letter network in front of us. They're still figuring out how to make money, right? In today's
It's a whole new restructuring. We are right in adapt or die. That's where we're at right now.
As it turns out, Justin, radio's model is just fine. But
because our product is free.
Right.
It's
but going back to
we don't ask for we don't put anything behind a paywall. We offer you our product for free. And for that, if you could just stick around and listen to some commercials, that'd be great. Maybe give DeBella a call, right?
Say you talk to Justin.
Simple as but that's.
But you're right.
So that's what I don't understand. Now, I understand when it was an actual physical copy, paper, ink has to be paid for. Got it. But radio's been offering our product for free our entire life. Entire existence. All you got to do is just sit through the commercials real quick.
And
that's all you got to do.
And that's where I said. Very much, Justin, like how.
And I think that's a problem why people don't like the paywall. It's like, well, other stuff's free. Why is this one not? And it's like, well, it's Justin, better. How do I know? We'll pay and find out. I fell for that one before.
Justin, Tubi and Freevee are free streaming services.
Yeah.
Netflix costs.
Yeah, but Netflix has got Seinfeld reruns.
Well, that's where I'd say the best. The best. Again, this is the hardest thing because this is something I deal with every day. When I'm not thinking about this show, how to get people to pay $9.99 a month for my website is my driving force.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where very much, Justin, like we have streaming services, and it took so long for people to be like, wait, I need to pay for streaming services? Oh, wait, I'll just cancel other things, and then it'll be fine. I think that, very much how, Netflix is king, and everybody else is playing for second place. How it's like...
Is Netflix really the king?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not even... wait till the next Black Friday, Justin, when you see every single other streaming service offer 6 months for a discounted rate. Netflix, we don't need to do that.
I've been watching this Uber show. Ironically,
Oh, it's great.
Ironically,
It's great.
on Netflix.
It's great. It is a great show.
And there was some problems there. But then I also saw this whole thing about, so like,
What do you think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
I've always been a fan.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan.
He pulls off the character
The 10
very
Things
well.
I Hate About You? Classic move. Anyways. But this whole thing about Uber, right, is like, technology gave Uber over cabs. And it was like, no, it's not what it was. You want to know what it was?
Them saying we're going to break the law and don't care?
There was that. But like, Brendan, if you didn't grow up in a world where like Uber was kind of always there for you for the most part.
No, when I went to New York City for the first time,
Right.
Justin,
and you rode
cabs.
in a cab. And guess what?
But
They
yes,
were
for the
dirty
most- yeah.
and they were stinky and
They were.
not reliable and you didn't know like what the meter was and all that. So like you get into an Uber and it's like, this car is clean. I got a phone charger right there. I got a Mint if I want. Like that's what it was.
Mint.
It was a better product.
A better bottled water sometimes, too.
Sometimes.
That's true.
I don't ever take those, though.
Yeah, no, I haven't
I'd have
either.
to be real buzzed before I take the bottled water from the Uber driver. But, like, that's the thing. Like, Sports Illustrated. Loved it. Guess what? There's better products now. There just are. Twitter's a better product. And we have shorter attentions and all that stuff.
But yeah, no, Justin, they literally, like, Uber is here, folks, because the dude that Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays was like, wait, we could go to jail for breaking this law? Yeah, do it anyway.
He's a total scumbag.
Yeah, like,
if might have been, who knows? He probably has his side of the story too. But the show I'm watching. But getting back real quick to the Sports Illustrated thing, this is the other thing that my generation is learning right now that I'm sure the boomers before me are like, give it a rest. Nostalgia dies. It's unfortunate. It'll like. The reason that the Sports Illustrated thing hits home, look, is because we still remember when it was a big deal to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, right? That was a big deal. Hey, I'm on a cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm on a Wheaties box. It's like, we don't buy magazines anymore. And some media places have adapted well. Some have not.
Right.
Like,
but objectively, you, who grew up in the era far more than me, is it not objectively sad to see something like this going away,
it
like
is,
many
but
other things that we've lost?
That's why I said I'm kind of standing in both. I'm
Sure.
kind of standing in both camps here. I don't like that people lost their jobs, but is it objectively sad that we don't have landlines anymore? I mean, I don't know. We got cell phones
Did that
now.
cost a lot of people their jobs, though?
I think so. There's a lot of people probably who
it cost 411 people their jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Where are the 411 people at?
That's it,
Those
Justin.
poor guys and gals and whoever was on the other
That's
end
it.
of 411 when we were
Everyone
drunk
else just
and been
moved
like,
over to
hey.
AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. They just moved.
I'm sure there was a lot of people who worked the phone lines and like they'd repair. You didn't live in landline world all that much. I grew up. We don't. Landlines, boy. It's like, but it's Sports Illustrated. So I just thought there was a lot of pearl clutching for a lot of people who probably haven't bought a lot of magazines. But on top of that, it is terrible for people to lose their jobs. We can get into the Blazers. You want to talk Blazers next? I want to hear your theory. Brendan said, I got a theory. I've got something to throw out there. Very excited about it. We wrap up hour number 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up hour number 2. In hour number 3, we'll get back into some more football talk as the AFC and NFC championship games are set. The divisional round is we got 3 games left. That's it. We got 3 football games in our lives left. Let's enjoy them. Let's embrace it because we got a pretty epic matchups in both the AFC and the NFC title game. A lot of storylines. I'm obsessed with legacy, so we're going to be talking about that coming up in a bit. Aaron Fentress is also going to join us in hour number 3. We're talking about the Blazers. Blazers look to be, figuring some things out. They got to win over the Nets. They got to win over the Pacers. DeAndre Ayton made it out of his house. Way to go, DA. And then they go down to the Lakers and get blown out. 134-110. It was not even that close. Called off the dogs at the end. And it once again brings up what I think is going to be the story of the Blazers the rest of the season. Now, there will be some trade deadline stuff coming up next month. But I believe the story of the Blazers for the rest of the season, because they're obviously not going to the playoffs, are they going to tank? Who knows? Are they going to just absolutely go for broke with the ping pong ball? It's going to be tough with the Detroit Pistons out there. Minute allocation, I believe, is going to be the story of the Blazers for the rest of the season. Minute allocation, because when Malcolm Brogdon was injured and Scoot Henderson played 40 minutes and scored a career high, short career, but a career high 33 points. Took 31 shots to get there, but it looked like, all right, Scoot's starting to figure some things out. And since then, Scoot hasn't played an awful lot of minutes. He played 20-some minutes. Now, I think took a hit to the nose against Indiana, didn't play in the second half. But then again, last night, from that moment, Brogdon got healthy and Brogdon gets back into the starting lineup, and I am slapping my forehead going what? Why is Malcolm Brogdon starting on this team? You drafted Scoot Henderson, which ultimately, whether directly or indirectly, but it led to Damian Lillard leaving the organization. This is the guy. Scoot is the guy you chose. You knew Dame was not going to be happy with a 19-year-old. You knew he wasn't going to be happy with a 19-year-old guard. You made the choice anyways. You tanked away a season to get into the top 3. Right? This is the guy you wanted. Why is Malcolm Brogdon starting? Brendan has a theory, and I am all ears because I am just what? Why? Why? Not only why is Malcolm Brogdon starting, and listen, Malcolm Brogdon is a great player. Think about all the things I just said that the Blazers went through to get Scoot Henderson. But Malcolm Brogdon played 33 minutes last night. Scoot played 23. What's going on? Brendan, floor is yours. A little second round ball rock? Why not? I like it.
Had to throw it in. I was like,
I
there's
was
an
wondering
opening.
what you were doing over there.
Yep. I was like, there's an opening for this. Let's just throw it on in, right? But no, going back to your thought on Malcolm Brogdon and the thought that I had, Justin, could they be playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers? And I
hope so. I don't know how to play chess, so.
And I'll say this. Well, it is a little complicated. I'll say that. I haven't played chess in many years. But I'll say this. If I were the Trailblazers and I had no intention of keeping Malcolm Brogdon past the trade deadline, I'd be looking to juice his trade value. Give him the Wheaties. And again, if you put him in the starting lineup, you show what he can do, which again, last night I think was 29-5 or something like that.
He was 23-9.
Okay, yeah.
That's 30-6 with 7 boards against the Pacers.
And again, that
and then it's 16 against the Nets, and then was dealing with injuries before that.
And then a really appealing aspect, Justin, is that he's shooting 40% from 3 on the year. So it's that right there, those numbers are going to get a contender interested. I don't think it's coincidence that Brogdon is
42% from 3.
Yeah, right. That's gonna get those phone calls ringing, Justin.
So you think this is?
I think it's calculated to up his trade value as much as possible because I would be shocked if he's on the team.
Let's showcase Malcolm Brogdon, entice teams, potentially the Lakers, who might need another guard.
The Knicks. There are several teams that I think he would.
Did you throw out the Magic?
Yeah, I heard the Magic could have some interest in Anthony Simons. Ooh. So my question to you is, one guard needs to go for sure. Would they go full wacko and trade 2 guards? I don't think so. I think it'll be one or the other, then maybe they'll reevaluate after another few months. But without question, Justin, one of Brogdon or Simons has to go, and it pains me to say that, but that's why you have to go to Brogdon first, because Brogdon is not Scoot, he's not Simons, he's good, but he doesn't fit the timeline of this team.
Real quick, though, and we probably should allocate more time to this. We'll do it later on in the week. I'm going to ask Fentress about it as well, but we sat here 2 years ago and talked about, boy, they traded CJ too late. We did. We said, they traded CJ. Right now, Anthony Simons is averaging nearly 23 points a game. He is the best player on this team. If you do not envision Scoot and Ant playing together, boy, I don't know if there's a better time.
I don't think they can, Justin. I don't think
they can either, but I don't know what Chauncey Billups knows, and I don't know what Joe Cronin knows, and I don't know what the future they are envisioning, but this season so far, I haven't seen the magic with Ant and Scoot in the backcourt. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't been playing a lot together. Now, maybe there's some advanced stat that maybe shows that. I'm sure there is if we did actually some research on this show. That's why our show's free. You got to paywall everything else. But I can't envision. But this is the problem that the Blazers have always had. We like Anthony Simons too much. He's too likable. He's too good, too likable. But it's like, do you see a future down the road where the Blazers have both Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson for the next four years?
No.
For the next 4. But then there's no sense in waiting. And I hate that I'm even bringing it up. But
no, I mean,
somebody's got to. Somebody's got to bring it up.
Yes or no for you? I'll flip it around on you. I say no.
I believe that Joe Cronin drafted Scoot Henderson to be the next franchise player of the Portland Trail Blazers. You need to let him become the next franchise player of the Portland Trail Blazers. And I don't believe Anthony Simons helps that. Did I dance around it enough without definitively saying? Anyways, Fentress on the big show coming up in hour number 3. We got an RCM mailbag. Another look back at the weekend that was with the divisional round of the NFL playoffs next. 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. Divisional round of the NFL playoffs have come and gone, and we have got 4 teams headed to the AFC and NFC championship games. We start on Saturday. The Baltimore Ravens take down the Houston Texans 34-10 in a huge second half. 4 touchdowns for Lamar Jackson, 2 through the air, 2 on the ground. San Francisco 49ers come from behind to get the victory 24-21 over the Green Bay Packers. And on Sunday, Lions moving on to the NFC Championship as they get the win over Tampa Bay 31-23. And the Chiefs go into Buffalo and ruin the Buffalo Bills run 27-24 Chiefs with the victory. Blazers go down to the Lakers last night 134-110. And in 20 minutes from now, we're going to talk to friend of the program, Aaron Fentress, on the big show. We have got the RCM mailbag coming up as well in hour number 3, but more on a look back to the weekend that was the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Hour 3 of RCM starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, what a weekend. Much better games this weekend than last weekend. Nobody really wanted to admit it, but it was the truth. Other than what I think it was other than the Lions-Rams, every game in the wild card round was kind of a big old dud. But some fantastic games over the weekend. And this has been my obsession today. Quarterbacks' legacies are made and broken in the postseason. And, boy, we've got so many storylines going on with regard to the quarterbacks in this league. Shout out to Andy Bernard. I wish I'd have known I was going through the good old days when I was in the good old days. We're in the good old days. I mean, you look at the amount of quarterback talent that is going on in a season where so many quarterbacks got injured, right? You think about with Aaron Rodgers and with Joe Burrow and Kirk Cousins. Who else got injured? Deshaun Watson got injured. So in a year where there's been a lot of quarterback injuries, man, to see what these guys are doing, and in particular, Brendan, the Ravens are really good. And Lamar, I hate that I'm right so much sometimes. I do. Sometimes I wish I was, I come on here, I say, I'm a big dumb doofus, but sometimes I get it right a lot, And I very much remember going back in the summer. Remember all those teams and all those hot takes about Lamar Jackson, about how you can't pay him Deshaun Watson money. Heck, you can't pay him Joe Burrow money. He's going to get hurt too much. He doesn't even have an agent. He's not taking this whole thing seriously. And the Ravens were in a position where they almost lost him, right? They put him up on waivers. That close from the Ravens losing Lamar Jackson. Boy, what a sliding doors moment. And I remember sitting here going and because this is how I look at it. You want to know how to evaluate a quarterback that's not on your team? I'll tell you exactly how you do it. Tell you exactly how you can evaluate a quarterback that's not on your team. Take your team, take your division. Would you rather have that quarterback in or out of your division? I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. You know who I don't want in the division? Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Don't want them anywhere near my team. That told me all I needed to know, is that I know that when Lamar Jackson is playing for the Baltimore Ravens, that is a scary team. Same thing with Joe Burrow, right? Brock Purdy. Ask Seattle Seahawks fans. Would you rather have Brock Purdy in the division or out of the division? And I bet you if you got a Seattle fan drunk or you gave him some sodium pentothal, you give them the truth serum, please take this guy out of the division. That's how I think most fans of the Seattle Seahawks would feel right now with the San Francisco 49ers. Boy, I wish Brock. Boy, they would take Jimmy Garoppolo back in a minute. Trey Lance, please. Seattle Seahawks did all this, by the way. If the 49ers, and again, this is why Football Universe is great. Brendan, if the 49ers end up winning the Super Bowl, which I think the Ravens right now are probably the odds-on favorites, 49ers probably very close. If the 49ers go on and win the Super Bowl, how much can you directly link the Seattle Seahawks to the 49ers winning the Super Bowl? Because if I recall, remember was it week 3 last year when the Seahawks took out Trey Lance? Was it either week 3 or week 2? I know it was warm because I was watching TV in the backyard when I watched it, but I think it might have even been week 1, now that I think about it. When Trey Lance, Jimmy G was there. I remember we had all those arguments about how can you pay your backup quarterback like $8 million or whatever they were paying Jimmy G. And it was like, pfft. And the Seahawks took out Trey Lance. And I know a lot of Seahawks fans on X were like, oh, man, would have much rather they stuck with Trey Lance at quarterback. Then Jimmy G comes in, like he breaks his foot like 8 weeks later, and the Purdy party begins. Talk about a sliding doors moment. The Seattle Seahawks and their defense took out Trey Lance. Like, what happens if Trey Lance never gets injured in that game against the Seahawks last year? I don't think the 49ers win the NFC title game.
I'm of the they would have been really bad last year. Like,
does Purdy ever get a chance? Like, does he ever get a chance without those 2 injuries? Does Purdy, number whatever pick it is, Mr. Irrelevant is, does Purdy ever get a chance? It's amazing. It's an amazing story.
Because Trey Lance got hurt. Then they went to Garoppolo.
Yeah, and then Jimmy G got hurt like December?
Yeah, and that was the whole awkward, like, hey, we're glad we kept Jimmy, but he was away from the team, but now he's back. So they had, I mean, I almost have to give Kyle Shanahan credit for how weird it was handled, Justin. It's like they threw darts at 3 guys. They go, okay, we got the number 3 draft pick, high upside guy. If he pops, we're set.
Yeah.
We got that guy, too, Mr. Relevant. Not really great odds he hits, but, hey, he could. And then that guy that took us to a Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo. They're like, one of those 3 guys will get it done. And
so it was week 2 of the regular season last year. Week 2, Seahawks get a 27-7 victory, and Trey Lance gets hurt in that game. Then you have to go all the way to week 12. Week 12, 49ers did get the win, but I believe that's when Jimmy G got hurt, was week 12. And all of a sudden, here comes... Actually, no, Jimmy G got hurt week 13. My fault. My apologies. So Jimmy G gets hurt week 13, and Purdy takes over. They get a win against Miami Dolphins. And it's like, all right, well, they're down to their 3rd-string quarterback. What's going to happen? And that's when Purdy rattled off 5 regular season wins in a row, 2 more in the postseason, 7 in a row, and then the elbow thing happens. But, like, I know I'm obsessed with butterfly effects. I know I am obsessed with, boy, what could have been. Man, think about other than Mahomes, which, from what I understand, Andy Reid and the Chiefs were like super high on Mahomes the whole time. I believe they traded up to get him in the first round, not into the top 5, but I think they made a move. Either way, they wanted Patrick Mahomes the whole time. He was their target, from what I understand. But like,
from Buffalo.
It's from Buffalo.
It was. That's the great irony.
But yeah, so the Chiefs won it. I'm glad I remembered that.
Would you have traded? I mean, honestly, in hindsight, it's like they traded 27 and 91st overall, and then a 1st rounder in 18, which became Josh Allen. So it actually,
interesting.
I think it actually worked out for both
Except for Josh Allen can't beat Patrick Mahomes.
Well, there's that. But
And if
yes.
you're obviously you don't know, but yeah, if you're Buffalo, you'd probably be like, we really like that Mahomes guy.
Okay, it was a different pick that they ended up taking. But regardless, Buffalo would take their franchise quarterback the next year. So be that as it may, that's not like a trade up and draft Bryce Young.
But the Chiefs wanted Mahomes the whole. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, didn't mean to take a shot, but
the Chiefs wanted him the whole time, right? Boom. Other than that, think about the quarterbacks that were playing this weekend, right? C.J. Stroud. The fact that the Texans essentially had C.J. Stroud by default. Now, they could have drafted Kenny Pickett. They could have drafted Anthony Richardson. They could have drafted any of those guys. But they got C.J. Stroud by default because Carolina Panthers traded up to get Bryce Young. Texans very fortunate there. Very fortunate. Ravens were this close from losing Lamar Jackson this summer because they were playing games. This close from losing Lamar. The Atlanta Falcons should have Lamar Jackson as their starting quarterback.
Oh, and
that should have happened.
Imagine does Arthur Smith keep his job? And if not, how would Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh feel about having Lamar Jackson waiting for him? What a butterfly.
If not for a Seahawks injury in week two, Seahawks injuring Trey Lance in week 2, and then Jimmy G going down in week 13, Brock Purdy's emergency. He's still on the bench somewhere, but his pads are clean. You know what I mean? And then Jared Goff to the Lions. It's the things that have to occur and transpire to get these teams to where they are. But the Ravens thing, I go back. Like I said, this is why I don't want to be right because I'm a Steeler fan. I don't like that the Ravens are good. I have such a pickle going into the AFC title game because unless it's your team, nobody likes dynasties, right? We like watching dynasties fall. Unless it's your team, nobody likes the same team to keep winning. It's we didn't like Alabama football. Georgia's going to be getting there soon. But nobody likes dynasties unless it's your own team. But man, I do not want the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl. But I was right. I was right about Lamar Jackson, and I was so dumbfounded. I'm just what are people doing? Again, you go back to his 2019 season, and he had an injury. Guess what? Quarterbacks get injured, not just running quarterbacks. Not just quarterbacks that have the ability to run. Pocket passers get hurt too. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, those are 2 flat tires from this season. Pocket passers get hurt too. Just the idea that, you can't give Lamar Jackson that kind of... And by the way, tip of the cap to Lamar Jackson doing it after the contract. And I don't know how much of it is pettiness, but I got to imagine a little bit of it is oh, really? Can't pay me all that much money? Oh, I've got my mom as my agent. But watch what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have huge statistical year, 4 touchdowns, by the way, in my first playoff game.
Hey, Justin, I'd like to think, shout out Lamar, man. He ain't worried about being a mama's boy at age whatever. I think I'd like to think that if I was a super big-time football player, I'd be like, you know what, Mom? You can worry about the contract. That's crazy.
Here's the thing. I am obsessed with people's wiring and makeup. How did you get to where you are? It is a thing of mine. I talk about how coaches are wired, how players are wired. People don't quite understand it. And you go back, Lamar Jackson was the best football player in Florida as a high school player. Guess what? Nobody wanted him to play quarterback. Except for Louisville. Goes to Louisville, wins the Heisman Trophy. He wins the Heisman Trophy. Puts up unbelievable numbers. People were still saying he needs to switch positions and play receiver in the NFL. You wonder why this guy is my mom's going to take care of this. Because all of you clowns, you've all wanted me to change positions, and you can't be quarterback and all and I can't pay him that much. Yeah. I'm going to trust with whom I trust. Mom's going to take care of me. All right.
Say it, man. It's underrated. It's an underrated aspect Also, yeah, I
don't blame him, right?
Yeah.
How many people have told him, like, you got to change positions. You're not good enough to play quarterback. It's like, now he's 2 MVPs and is a game away from going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. I'm a Steeler fan. I want him out of the division. And he ain't going anywhere. Stinks. All right. We've got Aaron Fentress from the Oregonian, friend of the program, joining us next on 620 Rip City Radio. Around games in the NFL, we've got a Final Four set. Joining us now to talk about all of it and whatever else we get into. Friend of the program from the Oregonian, Aaron J. Fentress, back on the big show. What's up, bud?
Oh, not much, man. Just trying to wake up here.
Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure you can agree with me on this. It would have been much better to just vote in these four teams into the playoffs and argue about who would have won the games than watching these stupid playoff games this weekend, right? It's so much better to just say, you know what, I think the Chiefs should get in instead of the Bills and just argue about it for 2 weeks than actually having that game last night.
100%. The divisional round of the NFL playoffs has always been a complete waste of time. NCAA got it right. As a matter of fact, let's just cut to the chase and just pick the Super Bowl champion after the regular season. Just vote on it.
I think so, yeah. Well, maybe what we should do is just not even play the Super Bowl and just, we'll call like the divisional round like one bowl game, or the AFC championship, the NFC championship. They get trophies at the end of them, right? We'll just call those like bowl games, and then we'll just vote for who would have won the Super Bowl. And we'll just all just go to the Usher concert and call it good.
Jeez, you're a genius. That's incredible.
Got it all figured out.
I'm down. Think about all the time we would save.
So much time, and we'd definitely never have any controversies. None whatsoever. All right, let's talk some football, Fentress. Because I mentioned this earlier. I love like the sliding doors moments and kind of the things that have to happen in the sports universe to get certain people to certain places. And look, I am married to a Seahawk fan. I worked in Seattle. You covered the Seahawks. You know there is no love loss between the Seahawks and the 49ers, yet I find it very funny that in a kind of indirect way, going back to week 2 last year, the Seahawks injuring Trey Lance put into place in the universe Brock Purdy becoming the quarterback of the 49ers and having them back in the NFC title game. Like, this is kind of the Seahawks' fault.
I didn't even think about that. That's true.
Yeah.
Damn.
These are the things I think about, and in-depth stuff here on Rip City Mornings.
And the Seahawks could have drafted Brock Purdy like everyone else. On top of it.
In all seriousness, though, because I have been of the opinion that, like, because, it's a real easy, kind of lazy take of like, well, look at all his weapons, and he's a game manager and all that stuff. But Fentress, like, how many NFL games and how many playoff games does Brock Purdy have to win before people are just like, okay, yeah, we missed him on the draft. That was a complete oversight. He's clearly a top-tier caliber player in the NFL. Where are you on the Brock Purdy part of this?
You got to do it for a while because teams can adjust to certain things. And we've seen flashes in the pan before. It's not like we haven't. He's not exceptionally gifted physically, which is one of the reasons why he didn't go higher, but he's super smart, and he seems to be, quote unquote, a gamer, a guy who can come up with plays when you need them. And that's, some of the most important traits you must have as a quarterback. Now, how long he can survive as a quote unquote high-end quarterback without being overly physically gifted, that remains to be seen, because sometimes you can get exposed in certain ways. I mean, look what happened to Jalen Hurts this year. Goodness gracious. They went to the Super Bowl last year. People calling him a top 2 quarterback in the NFL. They were 10-1. Where's that guy now? Where's that guy now? He's been abysmal. So, you got to give it time. Clearly, as of right now, he's a really good quarterback, but we'll see what his legacy proves to be as he moves forward.
And then Aaron Fentress from the Oregonian joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I go back to last summer. Fentress, you know this. I'm a Steelers fan. I was so pumped. In the summer because I thought Lamar Jackson was going to be out of the division. I'm like, the whole waiver thing, and he's going to be gone, and it's about time. And then ultimately the Ravens get Lamar Jackson back, and it's like, oh, goodness gracious. But, like, how nuts is it when you look back to, like, where Lamar Jackson was last summer? Where, like, you can't pay him all that money. You can't build a team around him. Now he is a game away from the Super Bowl and probably his second MVP in the league.
Well, wasn't the big thing that he wanted the guaranteed deal that Watson got?
Yes.
Right, and he didn't get nearly the guarantee, right? He got pretty much a standard
Yes.
contract where
Yeah.
basically 3 years is guaranteed. Yeah. I mean, that argument to me was always legit. He was coming off being injured. He's a running quarterback, which exposes yourself to being injured. So, yeah, I wouldn't give him fully guaranteed money. I mean, the Deshaun Watson contract was ridiculous. In the NFL, it's really, really difficult to justify fully guaranteed deals because of injuries. So, yeah, I was totally on board with him not getting a fully guaranteed deal, but it did make sense that he would get a good contract. And the fact that he was available to be had by a bunch of teams in the NFL and everyone passed on him is, it just shows how people feared his durability, and rightfully so. And so he's been healthy this year, and when he's healthy, he's really darn good. But can he stay healthy? That's the question. But clearly, he's back to MVP caliber form. It's cool to see, and I'd like to see him beat the Chiefs because I like Mahomes and I love Andy Reid, but God, I'm tired of them. Like, this has been too much. So I'm pulling for Jackson and the Ravens this week for sure. I was pulling for Josh Allen and Buffalo too. Poor Buffalo Bills fans. Oh, my God.
Okay, let's dive into this real quick, Fentress. Like, misery index of, like, people, let's say, close to, like, we're fairly close in age. We're, like, a couple of years apart, so we've seen some stuff, right? We've lived a life without the internet. We've lived a life with the internet. We've seen a couple of things in this sports world. Misery index, where, like, is there any, like, Lions fans or Bills fans? Who's had it worse?
Oh, well, Lions fans for sure, because at least Buffalo has, they went to 4 straight Super Bowls, which is one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of the NFL. It just is. To me, going to 4 straight is more impressive than winning 1. That run, that team was just amazing. So at least you had some AFC Championship victories, and you had a bunch of Hall of Fame players on that one team. Whereas Detroit, I mean, other than Barry Sanders, like and I guess Calvin Johnson, but they've been pretty miserable. I mean, and they went 0-16 one year. So yeah, Buffalo Bills fans have it better. However, there's something to be said about the torture that comes with coming so close,
yes,
and falling short as opposed to just being bad. So that, in that regard, I think they've had more heartbreak. But I think they still had it better because at least they've had some success.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of always the one, right? Just ineptitude versus really, really close, right? Almost there.
Right.
Like, which one is more miserable? I've lived both. I don't know. I think they're both equally as bad. Let's talk about Josh. Is Josh Allen now, like, is this something that, like, we should dive into and start criticizing Fentress, or is Josh Allen just like the Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing is like, sorry, you're playing with Michael Jordan. Like, you probably could have had a championship or two, but you had to play when Michael Jordan was playing, and it's like Josh Allen's like, yeah, sorry, you have to play when Patrick Mahomes is playing. Sorry about it.
It's sort of like with Steve Young of Falling in Montana, he had a Dallas Cowboy problem.
Yeah.
But Steve Young eventually broke through, and I think Josh Allen will as well. I mean, the guys played mostly really well in those defeats, especially that one in Kansas City a couple of years ago, which was back and forth in the last few minutes. So you can't necessarily put it all on him, but he had the ball with a chance to lead his team to victory, and he fell short. And so that's going to sting. Those things start to add up after a while, especially when you're losing to one guy. But if you're losing to that one guy, and that guy is stacking titles, everyone's losing to that one guy. So at least you can hide, like Karl Malone and Stockton and Ewing, can all hang out in Barkley, right? In the Jordan misery room. But Josh Allen he's super young. He's going to have many chances. Eventually, it'll break through. I believe eventually Josh Allen is going to bring a Super Bowl to Buffalo. At least I hope so.
Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Fentress, let's get into the important stuff. All right, which is how are you? How did you get through an entire day of people tweeting about how DeAndre Ayton should have been able to make it to the arena as they were tweeting stuck at home not being able to make it to the arena?
I was just alarmed at how many people were making that into a thing. Even our boy Dwight
I know.
was coming at it. What's fascinating to me about it is this feeling, this thing that no matter what, you have to get to the game. You know what I mean? You can't miss the game. You can't miss the game. It's like, I don't know. You're 10 and 28. You're playing a 16 and 23 team. You just missed 11 games with a knee injury. Do you really need to jet ski your way? I guess it wouldn't be a jet ski. It's snowmobile your way to a meaningless basketball game in January. Better safe than sorry. What I love too is he could have planned ahead and gotten the hotel room. Well, a single player is not going to say, "Hey, I could be the one that can't get out. I better get a hotel room." No, you don't do that as a team. So the team could have said, "Everyone go stay in a hotel tonight." Yeah. They didn't do that. So then they blame the one player who couldn't make it and say, "Well, you should have known better." When the guy has absolutely zero snow and ice experience. He's born in the Bahamas and played high school and college in Arizona. So dude and ice and snow are completely, foreign to each other. So to expect him to make that decision is ridiculous. Also, he kind of hiked it out. Yeah, that's what I want. I want my $34 million a year, 6'11", 250-pound center, hiking through the snow and ice to try and get to the road. We can pick him up. Oh, because he's coming off a knee tendonitis. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, nothing at all, because we have to. The whole thing was just stupid.
Not like there's ever a history of injury with Blazers and big men either, right? It's just clearly smooth sailing between this organization and 7-footers. So let's get about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
I was disappointed. Real quick, I was disappointed that he wasn't more open to talking about it the next night. He went to that. I thought we gave you all the information you need. I'm like, dude. Come on, it could be a funny story. It could be a very interesting story. He has a personality. He just, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. So I thought maybe he has some interesting tales. Like, man, I've never seen anything like this. It looked like an ice skating rink out there. I tried to go out, and I almost slipped and fell up. I thought he would bring more personality to it, but he didn't really necessarily want to talk about it. That was disappointing. But I do believe that they tried to get him out, and he couldn't make it. Such is life. Move on.
100% they tried to get him out and he couldn't make it because I was in this city when the ice storm hit and then the second ice storm hit, and it's in hindsight it's like, oh, why weren't they more prepared? It's like, have you seen this city? Like, I'm not from the Bahamas, Fentress. I'm from here, right? I did not play basketball in Arizona and live in Phoenix. I am from here. I was wholly unprepared. It's massively unprepared. Couldn't leave my driveway. I couldn't have played a basketball game if I wanted to. So I did. That was what, to me, was the funniest part about it. It was like, all the people across the country, like, oh, this is a Tuesday in Minnesota. It's like, yeah. We're hills and rivers over here. It's a little bit different than the way you live in Minnesota. But, like, the people here, it's like, come on, we all saw it, right? It was an ice rink out there. Before we run out of time, I do want to ask you about this. All right. What's going on with Scoot Henderson? What's the plan here, Fentress? Because – again, now I'm not saying that this is what the Blazers thought, but this was kind of common knowledge. They draft Scoot. Dame requests a trade. All right. Now here's waiting in the wings, new franchise player, Scoot Henderson. He started 15 of 33 games. His minutes are around 25, 26 a night, not in the starting lineup in a season where they don't seem all that interested, Fentress, in winning. What's the plan here? What's the plan with Scoot that from you there covering the team that you look out and see with what the organization is trying to do with him?
Well, it was obvious that they began the year with Blizzard started because he was a third pick. Mm-hmm. There was no way that guy was going to beat out Sharp and Ant. I was screaming that all summer. I couldn't believe how many people thought he was just going to waltz into the NBA and be transcendent and generational when he wasn't even that in the G League. So that'll always be my biggest thing about that whole situation is that the hype was just ridiculous and people fell into the trap. So once they saw him play, they knew in training camp. But once they saw him in games against adults, it was obvious. When he got hurt and came back, at first it was a minutes restriction. But it wasn't just that. They decided that it's not in his best interest to start him. Now, later he started starting a game because of injuries, and they had no one else. And he had some moments, right? He also had some bad moments. And there was some progress shown. But if you're going out to an NBA basketball game and you're playing three guys in your lineup who are rookies, a 19-year-old, a second-round pick, and a 26-year-old journeyman, not even a journeyman, a 26-year-old rookie who just broke into the league, you're going to get your butt kicked. And that's what happened on that road trip. They got destroyed because they just had no rim resistance. You had no rim protection, and you had no front or backcourt defense, and part of the problem was Scoot's 19, and people were just taking advantage of that. So if you're Billups, at some point you have to ask yourself, okay, what's the best way to develop this guy? It's not to give him 34 minutes and have him go out there and play poorly. It's to give him the minutes he can handle based on each night, based on matchups and based on what we're trying to do, so he can have success and he can grow, and you're not hurting the rest of the team. And the bottom line is, dude is not ready to start in the NBA. He just isn't. And this idea that you should start him to develop him doesn't make sense because he's not ready for that. Therefore, is he really developing, and is he hurting the rest of the team? And so the decision they just made was they got Kamara out of there. He wasn't ready to start. Aiden's coming back, so they don't have to start WAP, and you get Scoot out of there. Plus, you want to showcase Brogdon a little bit more because you're trying to trade him. So that's sort of where things are. He has a long way to go in his career. I don't believe he's a bust by any stretch of the imagination. He just has to grow and develop mentally and skill-wise to compete at that level. And so why force him into 30 minutes as a starter when you can give him in the 20s as a backup?
Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. This is the reason why I'm not pushing back. I'm just asking questions, Fentress. I like conversations. I don't like arguments. We've argued plenty in our time, and you know what? I feel like in our middle-aged moving forward, I'd rather have a conversation. But I look back, and again, not talking about playing the same, and maybe you answered the question with just these guys I'm about to bring up are better players, but like you look at Ja Morant, you look at Luka Doncic, both of those guys started 19 years old. One was number 2 overall, one was number 3 overall. They both started, played 30, 32 minutes a night. Was it just that they were better players and that not all number 3 overall picks are created equal?
Well, Luka played professionally. I mean, I guess you could argue that Scoot did as well, but yeah. Luka is truly transcendent and generational. And those two words get thrown around way too much, especially generational, and they drive me bananas. And when you put that on somebody, the expectations are you're going to be like Morant out the gate. You're going to be like Derrick Rose, who played college, obviously. And then when you're not, then it was like, oh, well, something's wrong here. I don't think anything's wrong in terms of what he can become. I think he could become very good. But, no, he's not on those guys' level. He's just not. Now, sometimes people develop differently, right? So just because he's off to a slow start doesn't mean he can't one day, it can't just click and boom, he's Ja Morant 2.0, right? He's not, I don't believe a second he's ever going to be Luka. Luka is, modern-day Magic Johnson at 6'9", whatever he is. But I do think he can, De'Aaron Fox mold, Morant mold, something like that. That's still out there for him. He just has to grow into that. But, yeah, I get it if people are concerned because, you named some people who came in, boom. But, Kobe Bryant came in. Yeah, he played 15 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. His next year he played 20-something minutes a game. And that's Kobe Bryant, top 5 player of all time. So, give the guy time. You can see the flashes, but, man, he's just so young and raw, and he's just not ready yet.
Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. You saw Brogdon's getting a lot of minutes. Super producer Brendan brought this up. It's like this is a showcase, right? Blazers are trying to show off their nice shiny guard to the rest of the league, going look at this guy shooting 40% from 3. He's up to about he's dropping 25, 30 a night. Lakers, huh? Take a look, see. It seems like that's so Brogdon. He's getting dealt no matter what, right?
Well. Yeah, they have to trade him. Bill said Sharp would be back to starting had Sharp been healthy, and that's why Brogdon's starting over Sharp. But Brogdon's starting over Scoot, 1, because of what we just talked about, and 2, because, you want to showcase him and you want to trade him, there's no doubt, because he's they're trying to accumulate assets, and he's not part of their future. So get him out there, let him play. He had a season high 30 the other night. He had 23, 9, and 6 last night. A team out there that needs a point guard, needs a veteran in the backcourt, is going to see that this guy still has it, and I think they're going to make the Blazers a decent offer. Plus, he changed everything. Putting Walker at the power forward, Grant at the 3, Brogdon or Sharp at the 2 with Ant. That's your best lineup. It's just by far. The Kamara thing was cute. The WAP thing's cute. The Scoot thing's cute. It's cute, but none of those three would be in anyone's rotation. That's a playoff team. Not one of the three would be in anyone's rotation. And they're starting for you. That's why you're losing by 30, 40, 50 points on that road trip. So Brogdon getting in there and getting more minutes and being more of a focal point helps make you a real NBA team.
Aaron Fentress from the Oregon. You can also follow him on Twitter at Aaron J. Fentress. Oh, by the way, speaking of Twitter, can you just let us have our fun on Twitter, Fentress? Look, Dan Lanning turned down Alabama. They offered him probably about $18 million a year, and he turned it down. Can you just let us have our fun? All right, we had a day. We wanted to.
It's so ridiculous.
Can you just let us have our fun?
It's so ridiculous. Do you believe it?
Who cares if I believe it? If it's on Twitter, it's true. Who cares? Just let us have our fun.
I'm a parent who has to go into the basement and check on the party. When nothing's going on that's necessarily wrong, I just gotta let everyone know that I'm there and I'm watching for those shenanigans. So don't get too right. That's me, right?
Did the elf on the shelf move? I don't know. On its own, I don't know. I'm just gonna let the kids have their fun. Let the Oregon fans have their fun. Dan Lanning turned down Alabama.
Fine.
Turned him down.
Nick Saban called him personally. I want you and only you to replace me.
I planned this for weeks. There you go. All right, Fentress, have a great week, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, later.
There you go. All right, just let us have our fun, you know? Did he turn down Alabama? Who cares? It was on Twitter. It's true. All right, we've got the RCM mailbag coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio.
It's time for the RCM mail.
Candy or whatever, because they're bite-sized, I will, continue to eat it. Piece of cake seems like a whole endeavor, right? Like, I kind of like having a cake if it's like a ball.
You
right?
want little, like, handheld thing. Yeah,
like that I could do it, and that's
convenience.
What I like. And that's where I give cookies an attaboy,
Cookies
Justin,
are so good.
is you can just grab it with one hand. Now, I'll say this. I don't know why anyone continues to make oatmeal raisin cookies. They have no point on planet Earth. We're saving raisins, Justin, like somewhere that and Raisin Bran Crunch and Raisin Bran.
Well, okay, so
saving raisins.
Here's what's interesting, though. Let's dive into this real quick. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left here on the big show. Oatmeal cookies done well are good. They are.
They're very good.
Good oatmeal. But you put the raisins
Don't
in
ruin
there,
them.
and it's like, why did you just ruin this?
Yeah.
Now, Raisin Bran. Have you ever had Raisin Bran?
Yeah.
The raisins are the best part.
It's
two
not my
scoops.
favorite cereal, but it's okay.
No, it's not a. It was a bummer as a kid. You're like, Raisin Bran, like the commercials are like 2 scoops, and you're like, this is
not
way too
Captain
healthy.
Crunch. It's not Captain.
No, it's not.
the Captain.
And my palate was all jacked up from the amount of sugar that I have already ingested. But like, the raisins are the best part of the Raisin Bran, whereas they're the worst part of the oatmeal raisin cookie. Like, just.
Justin, you know how many Costco oatmeal raisin cookies I would crush if they didn't have those?
If you just took out the raisins,
those
yeah.
nasty raisins in the middle of them. Like,
But where are you, like, raisins in Are you just completely out?
No.
Because I like trail mix.
Yep.
Good raisin.
I don't hate raisins. There's no place for them in cookies.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't disagree. Kind of like I don't think there's any place for carrots in cake.
Well, as you and I
be that as it may.
we
that's a
disagree there.
Slight difference on us.
Very different.
Justin, we're going to make the last 2 minutes of the mailbag completely and 100% about me. Because
Let's do it.
It's this is my time to shine.
Oh.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on this because it's fun for me to ask. Where are you on the Game of Thrones ending?
So, all right, let me. You've watched all the Game of Thrones. You
Into
got to
House
the
of
ending.
Dragon now. Oh, it's good.
All right, so spoiler alerts, but it's been a while.
It's
gang.
been a long time.
Here's the thing. Ending a show is very, very difficult. Ending a show that started as books that don't have any more books.